Good afternoon, everyone. On the workbench today, PS4 with a little bit of an interesting fault. So this is the PS4, or one of the original ones, that the model that has physical buttons for the eject and power. So try and press the power button, and nothing happens. Pressing the eject, you can hear that it beeps, so it's getting power. And if I just kind of stick a disc in just to turn it on, it does work. It boots up. It displays the white light and everything. It boots up to the main menu and it reads discs, but this power button doesn't work. So what I'm guessing has happened is maybe this fell, or someone got really aggressive and they pushed super hard on the power button, and that physical power button that's on there just broke off. So I'm gonna go ahead and power this off once it gets to the main screen, power off correctly, and then I'll bring it back over and set you up top, and we'll start taking this thing apart, see if we can get it fixed. All right, there you go, back up top, and we're gonna go ahead and start by taking this apart. And even though the issue is really just this power button, I'm going to replace the thermal paste on this anyways. I do this for all of my PS4s. I take them apart, clean them out, and they all get new thermal paste. That way they don't ever really run hot for at least a few more years, because the PS4 has been out for, I want to say like 8 years now? 2012? I'm not 100% sure. But by now, the thermal paste on pretty much all of them. The original PS4s like this one, the PS4 Slims, most of the older versions, and even some of the Pros. The thermal paste on them, thermal paste on the CPUs and GPUs, APUs, whatever, it's really only good for like maybe a year. You should be replacing it pretty often. This one's also interesting because there's another model out there that has 3 screws on the bottom, one on the outsides and one in the middle. And then this model that has the physical buttons actually has clips on the outside edges. And they're really, really strong clips. So I can do one side pretty easily, but the other side is a lot more difficult. So I always just grab the ends of my snips here, and I can lever it under there because it's rubberized, and just trying to lift up with enough leverage to pop that open. And this is pretty decently clean. The fan's a little bit dirty, but I'll be able to clean it out once I get it open. And it looks like something. What is this? Okay, that's just some schmoo. Switch over to my motorized screwdrivers here, and we'll start by taking out the power supply. This has 3 screws, 3 T8 screws, one on the outside here, here, and here, and then it's got 2 Phillips. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out, and I'll just fast forward through this. So that's going to finish it off with the screws. And this is also a little bit easier than the other original model because it has this nice easy grip right here. But there's 2 prongs that are the 12 volts plus and minus connector over here, and it gives it a lot of I guess friction that holds it into place. So what I like to do, I'll just pinch this section right here with my 2 fingers, my thumb and index finger, and I'm gonna put my thumb on the power input over here, and I'm gonna lift with the power input, as well as pulling up with my index fingers. It'll come right out. And this connector, I've seen many people rip this off. I don't know how they do it, but all you're really gonna wanna do is you're just gonna grab the wires and then you jiggle back and forth. See if I can kind of show you. Is it a good enough angle? Jiggle back and forth. Ooh. And it comes out. So again, all I was doing was I was gripping the wires. This is a pretty strong connector, and you jiggle back and forth as you pull up, and that'll make it so it doesn't get damaged when you pull it out. And then undo the antenna. Try and lift from the bottom close to the edge connector. Makes it a little bit easier. That's gonna finish it on this side. Flip it over. Hard drive cover. let's see. Switch over to the manual Phillips, and then we'll take out the hard drive. Hard drive screw, hard drive comes right out, and then 2 T8s right here. Pretty easy. It also has a nice strong clip over here on this side, so push up, and then up here in the middle. There we go. A little bit of dust. I'm going to undo the ribbon cable here as well as the fan, so don't forget about it later. And then this also has a bunch of different screws. There's 2 different size Phillips. Whether I think PH 00 for the Phillips head, but there's 3 silver ones, small ones back here, and then the black ones. Those are all Phillips, and then the rest are all T8s. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about these 2. These 2 are over here are pan head, also PH 00 or just 0, and then they screw in the plastic. So these short silver ones and the black ones all screw in the metal. These short Phillips ones over here, these screw in the plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and take out these screws. I'll fast forward this just to save you guys the headache. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too bad. This just lifts right off, little plastic cover, revealing this little screw insert thing that goes to the long Phillips that was for the power supply. This just lifts right out too, some kind of grill cover thing. This pops right off. Sometimes the thermal pads stay all on one side, sometimes they lift off some of them. Next up is the 2 Phillips holding down the little clamp for the APU. Easy enough. This just comes right out too, and then this will is held in. This is holding in the power button too, so you can just lift up the clip with your finger. These tweezers lift up right here and then pull straight forward, and the power button thing comes right out. Next up, you can just lift this right off. Sometimes the thermal paste will be super dry and actually kind of cause the APU to be almost glued to the heatsink. So just lift it up kind of gently and it should just pop right out. Oh, I forgot the ribbon cables from the Blu-ray drive. Amateur. Just flip it around real quick. There's 3 of them right here. They'll just come right out. Now I can take the motherboard out. This thermal paste is actually not that bad. A bit surprising. But let me go ahead and grab some Q-tips. Or cotton buds, whatever you want to call them. Clean up the APU itself first, around the edge. These usually just come off in chunks. That's the real super dry stuff. Hopefully I'm in frame right now. I could get up and actually look. Yes. Another chunk. Let me just grab my camera closer. This is kind of wet, so it'll just kind of smear around. I'm going to get most of it with the dry cotton bud first. Same with this over here. See if I can grab these. Does it want to stick? No, it doesn't want to stick. Use my fingers. Wash my hands whenever I take this to go blow it out, all the dirt and everything. And then I'll get a cotton pad, some isopropyl alcohol. There we go. So I can wipe this one nice and clean, as well as up here. Pick up most of it. Got a side to dry it. Looking pretty good. And I'll use another cotton bud, dry one, just to help get up some of that schmoo. Nice and shiny. That's what you want to see. Okay. Let's push this off to the side, and I'm bringing it in closer to show you this power button. I've never done the power button. I've done the Blu-ray or the Blu-ray eject button many times, but not the power button. This one might be a lot more difficult because there's a large ground plane. But let's bring it down. I'll just set up to see if I can go ahead and take this power button off. Okay, I think I've got you at a pretty good angle here. Zoomed in a little bit, and then you can see actually the numbers on this measuring surface here. These is centimeters, so it's metric. You can see the buttons, oh, I don't know, 5 millimeters wide. So kind of small, and like I said, very large ground plane. I'm gonna grab my tip here, that's this knife tip, and some solder. And since we don't really care about this button because it's broken, I'm going to just remove it, just flood solder in there. Soldered iron set to about 375, it looks like, Celsius. Flood this in. Okay, there's a little bit on that side. Switch over to this side. Nice and flooded. Okay, and then kind of just scrape at it. Let's see if we can just chunk it out. Rip it up a little bit. And then watch it from this side too. There we go. I'm not really too worried about it looking clean. We'll clean it up once I've got the button completely removed. Just a lot more solder. There we go. So that's it off. I'm gonna grab a Q-tip, cotton bud, just clean that a little bit. And I do want to clean those pads off of the old solder completely, because the way I'm gonna do this, I'm not gonna use hot air, because it's a little bit more difficult. You can actually see this track right here on closest to the hole. This is your ground, and then the one on the other side, this is the signal. So I need a little bit of wick, just a strand that I've got right here. Get that in frame. And I'm just gonna get a little bit of this tin of flux. It says solder paste. It's definitely not paste. There we go, just a little bit of that. Still gonna use the same soldering tip for this. It's like this is dirty. I'm gonna clean this off. When I say dirty, I mean that it has, where's the camera? It has some solder in there from what I was desoldering last time. So just clean that out, nice and fresh, some copper. Hopefully this is real copper. It's almost gone, it's worked, so. And then I'll just dip a little bit in the flux here. They make good wick that has like paste embedded into it. And I've used some, but I still feel like it's, oh, maybe it's not enough solder. But still 370, 375, and I'm just going to wick up the pads. Nice and easy. Looks like I took a little bit of the solder mask off of it. No big deal, it's just on the ground plane. And clean that right off. Squeaky clean, in fact. So, and I've got replacement buttons here. A whole bunch of different buttons. Looks like I'm getting pretty low on the power/eject buttons for this model of PS4. I don't remember what this was called. I might have purchased it under some listing that was labeled as PlayStation 4 eject power button or whatever. I don't really remember. I think I bought like 10 or 15, 20 at a time. And yeah, most of the time what happens is it's the eject button that breaks. But this, you can see there's no holes or anything on the bottom portion here. But if we look at the power button, or this button here, if it'll zoom, there's kind of little studs that stick out on the bottom. I actually need to take those off. So this sits perfectly flat. And I'll use an X-Acto knife, and I'll be really, really careful, because I'm gonna slice towards my finger, but it's really thin, so I don't need to use a whole lot of force. and just kind of scrape that off. Almost doesn't even need to cut, it just scrapes it right off. So that'll be nice and flat. And we're gonna get this set on there, the proper direction. That's definitely not gonna work that way. Move it around. Line it up mostly. That looks almost, I'd say right there. And I'm gonna get my thinner solder here. I think this is 0.5. It's covered up by the sticker, but 0.5. Oh, and it just moved that. Actually, tell you what, we will just tin one of the pads. Come on. There we go. And then when it's tinned, I'll be able to grab one of the feet of the buttons. And my arm is hitting that and causing this to move. We'll be able to grab one of the feet and kind of pull it into place, hopefully. Oh, almost. Move around a little bit. And a notification on my phone. Almost there. You can do it. There you go. That is pretty well lined up. Just a little bit off. A little bit crooked. Much better. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more without it getting too blurry. Okay, yep, see, it lines up pretty well with those pads. And that, like I said, this outside towards the hole, that is the ground plane. So it takes a lot of heat in order to solder to it. So I'm going to do the back button first, or the back legs first. A lot easier. And then I'll come around over here. And I hit that, my camera. Then I'll hit the ground plane. Not too bad. Clean off the tip. And then this one. And I think that is pretty good. I got a little blob on this outer edge here, so I'm just going to scrape my soldering iron over it. It'll spread the solder. It's going to want to stick to that copper, but at least flatten it out. There's no point in grabbing the wick to wick that off or anything. And then another cotton bud. Oh, it's still a little wet. Just try and clean that up. I could expect my work a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good on that side. How about that side? This side looks pretty good. I think that's on there just fine. All right, let me go ahead and move you back out over the bench, and then we'll be able to put on some new thermal paste and put this back together and test to make sure it's working. I'll be right back. All right, set back up here, and what I'm going to do is put some thermal paste on here. I do a lot of systems, so it's not really cost effective to buy a bunch of Arctic Silver. Even though it's like Arctic Silver is some really good thermal paste, I found that this GD900, which you can buy from China for, I don't know, it's a few dollars per a tube of this, and this stuff is really good. I've actually got this in my main, like my server PC that I use for rendering videos, and as my Plex server, or when I'm in the workshop here and I'm looking up like data sheets for stuff. And it's been running cool, perfectly fine, no issues at all. I think it idles at like 31C or 32C, something like that, using a water-cooled, thermal, water-cooled, heatsink, whatever, water-cooled from my CPU, around 31, 32 degrees C. And I use it on the GPU too, and it's been going for almost a year now, no issues. Anyways, I'm just rambling on. The GD900 stuff is definitely good. I'm going to put a little bit of blob on the APU here. And you all can judge how much I do. Go for it. I'm not going to change how much I do. I've been doing this amount for years now, and there's been no issues whatsoever. Just put this back into place. Watch out for the connector for the fan. I'm going to connect that back up now. As well as the ribbon cable from the eject button on the other side. If I can get it through. Oh my goodness. Can you grab it? There we go. And this will just slide right in with a little bit of force, even though it's supposed to be a ZIF connector, zero insertion of force connector. It does take a little bit of force. And the power button, the plastic power button. Let's just slide this back in to make sure it makes a nice click with the button that we soldered into place. And oh yeah, it does. So that's working. And next is the APU clamp. Let's get this screwed into place. Actually, one little trick, I almost forgot to do it too. Whenever I put these back together, I like to bend out this steel clamp just a little bit, just add a little bit more of a bend on it to apply more pressure. Not a whole lot, so it looks almost negligible when you actually see it. But when you're screwing the APU clamp on, you can definitely feel a difference. And that's just to help give a better contact with the heatsink in that thermal paste. Like I said, it doesn't look at all like any difference, but it does, I think, help a lot. I do that for all the systems that I do. One side just to get that started, and I'll switch over to the other side, line that up, screw it in, nice and tight. And this one, nice and tight. The top metal cover goes on. I'm get it lined up. You want to get this little threaded metal piece in the holes over here. Like I said, that's for the power supply, the long Phillips screw. We'll put the plastic cover on here. This little metal grill over here. Slides right into place. We'll do a hard drive too. That just slides in. Screws in. And then next up, I'm just going to go ahead and finish putting all the screws back in. So I'll fast forward this, save you guys a little bit of time. Okay, that's all the screws. We'll put the cover back on, slip it over like that, and some clip down in place. 2 more T8 screws. Hold that in place. Hard drive cover. Clips right on. Flip it around. We'll do the 3 ribbon cables that I forgot to do originally. When you are doing this, one thing I really recommend is try to grip it by the blue plastic piece when you push down. That way it's what it's there for, is to try and give extra support, because the ribbon cable itself is going to just flippy floppy. This one, you're going to lift the cover or clip up just a little bit, slide this into place, and then push the little clip connector thing down. Last one goes in. I'm going to grab my tweezers to help line up the antenna connector. Clips right in. Power supply next. This connector is like it's 5-volt detect or something. Just goes right in. Push it down. Nice and flat. And I'll grab the cover from over here, the 2 Phillips screws, and then I'll put the 3 T8s in too. I'm gonna just fast forward through this. All the screws, the bottom cover is just gonna slide right in. This has a little bit of wiggle room. It's designed so that it will catch onto these 2 stud things here and allow for some clearance for the eject button. So what you try and do is push it out further than the front end and put it at an angle to pull inwards. And it'll just slide right in. And I'm not going to bother putting in the T8 bits, our screws in the back. Let's just go ahead and set this up, make sure the power button is working. I've already tested the disk drive, so I know it reads games. But let's go ahead and hook this up, and I'll show you guys working. Hopefully, I did everything right. But I'll be right back. Moment of truth. Do you think we did it? I think so. Let's go ahead and, I know it's clicking, but is it soldered properly? Why, yes. Yes, it is. Okay, let's go ahead and let it boot up. I'll pop in a game and show you all it working properly. Okay, there we go. The intro and cutscene always takes so long. I've seen it so many times. But that kind of just shows that the game was loading up, the discs are being read properly. It's installing to the hard drive still. Should be done soon. Let it install a little bit when I originally first got this. But I'll just play through a little bit of this first mission. At some point it's going to stop me because it's saying installing the game to the hard drive. We'll see how far I can go. Get in here, and that's pretty much gonna do it. So it's reading data from the hard drive, loading up resources. Everything looks good to go. The power button works. So I would say this was definitely a successful fix. Pretty easy for me. I've done stuff like this a few times. SMD soldering, and I've fixed that power button. Not specifically the power button, but I've replaced that button on the eject board on the other side several times. So pretty easy to do. But I'm just rambling on here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up at this point. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Maybe this will affect some of you out there. Maybe you have one of these physical buttons that doesn't work. It's usually because that button is broken. And so replacing it is really your only option. Or, I mean, if it's not a big deal for you, you can always power it on, use the controller, or just inserting a disc. But anyways, yeah, again, I'm rambling again. Take care, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of your day. And it's almost New Year's, so Happy New Year's. Looking forward to 2021. Hopefully better than 2020. Take care.